Have you ever experienced a moment that completely changed your perspective on life? A brief encounter that seemed ordinary at first, but turned into something profoundly meaningful? Today, I'm going to share with you an extraordinary story about how a simple taxi ride became a life-changing journey for two strangers. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LMJ English. I'm thrilled to have you join me today for another inspiring story that will not only help you improve your English skills, but also touch your heart and perhaps make you reflect on your own life choices. Before we dive into this powerful tale of connection and redemption, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly stories designed to enhance your English comprehension while delivering meaningful messages. Now, let's embark on this remarkable journey together, where an elderly woman named Elena discovers that sometimes the most important journeys aren't the ones we plan, but the unexpected encounters that find us when we least expect them. Elena's journey to Cancun. I am 70 years old, and my name is Elena. Life has taken many turns since my husband passed away many years ago. The house feels emptier now, with only memories to keep me company as my children have all moved far away, building their own lives in distant cities. The phone calls and occasional video chats cannot replace the warmth of a real embrace, the comfort of sharing a meal together, or the joy of watching my grandchildren play right before my eyes. But this week, something special was happening. After months of planning and countless excited messages, my family had invited me to Cancun for a big family reunion. My daughters, my son, all my grandchildren, everyone would be there. When the invitation came, I did not hesitate. Yes, I said, feeling a surge of happiness that I had not experienced in quite some time. I bought my ticket, carefully packed my things into a suitcase that had been gathering dust in the closet, and set off on my journey. The flight was long, and by the time I arrived in Cancun, fatigue had settled deep into my bones. But beneath the tiredness burned an excitement that kept me going. Soon, I would be surrounded by the people I loved most in this world. I would hear their laughter, listen to their stories, and hold them close. Yet before all that could happen, I needed to make my way to the hotel where we had all agreed to meet. Standing outside the airport, I scanned the line of vehicles waiting for passengers. The hot Mexican sun beat down on my face as I searched for a taxi. Finally, a car stopped before me. A simple white sedan with the familiar taxi sign on top. I walked over and opened the door, sliding into the back seat with a smile of relief. "Hello," I said cheerfully, ready to begin the final leg of my journey to my waiting family. But the driver said nothing in return. He did not smile, did not nod, did not even turn to acknowledge my presence. That was the first strange thing I noticed. The complete absence of the friendly greeting I had expected. Still, I pushed aside my confusion and told him the name of my hotel, thinking perhaps he simply hadn't heard me the first time. He started the car, pulling away from the curb with a sudden movement that pushed me back against the seat. Still no smile, still no words, just silence filling the space between us. As we drove through the busy streets, I couldn't help but wonder about this man. Who was he? Why was he so cold? What had happened to make him close himself off so completely from the world around him? Breaking through the silence, the taxi glided through the streets of Cancun, passing colorful buildings and palm trees swaying in the gentle breeze. Inside the car, however, the atmosphere felt heavy and still. I sat in the back seat, watching the driver's expressionless face in the rearview mirror. His eyes remained fixed on the road, his posture rigid, as if carrying an invisible weight on his shoulders. "Is it a busy day?" I asked, attempting to break through the wall of silence between us. It was a simple question the kind strangers often exchange without much thought. "No," he replied flatly. "Just one word. No elaboration, no return question, no interest in continuing the conversation." His voice sounded hollow, empty of the warmth that usually accompanies human interaction. I stayed quiet for a while, observing him more carefully. There was something in the way he gripped the steering wheel, something in the tight line of his jaw that spoke of inner turmoil. I found myself thinking, who is this man? Why is he so cold? It wasn't just rudeness. There was pain behind his demeanor, a darkness that seemed to envelop him completely. Then he reached forward and turned on the radio. A sad melody filled the car, a song about lost love and regret. But almost immediately, he turned it off again, too quickly, as if the lyrics had struck a nerve, as if the song had reached into his chest and touched something raw and wounded. The abruptness of his action confirmed my suspicion. This man was carrying something heavy inside. I said nothing about the song, but in that moment, I knew with certainty that there was deep pain inside this man. Something had broken him, and he was driving with the pieces still cutting into him. We continued in silence for several minutes, the only sounds coming from the hum of the engine and the occasional horn from passing cars. Eventually, he surprised me by asking, "You came here alone?" His question hung in the air between us, unexpected after such prolonged silence. "No," I answered, "my family is here. We will meet later." I noticed how his hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel when I mentioned family. He didn't respond immediately. Then, almost whispering, he said, "Family is not always easy." His voice was different now, low and heavy with meaning. In those 5 simple words, I heard volumes of personal history, of struggles and disappointments. In that moment, I knew with absolute clarity, this ride was not just about going to my hotel. This taxi journey was becoming something more, something neither of us had expected when I opened that car door. As we drove through the bustling streets of Cancun, surrounded by tourists laughing and enjoying their vacations, inside our taxi was a different world, one of quiet tension and unspoken pain, waiting to be released. The driver's confession. The car moved steadily through traffic as silence settled between us once again. I glanced out the window, watching tourists with their colorful shirts and wide-brimmed hats strolling along the sidewalks. But my mind wasn't on the scenery. I was thinking about my family, about the dinner we would share that evening, about the hugs and smiles waiting for me, about the stories we would exchange after months apart. Suddenly, the driver's voice cut through my thoughts. "You are lucky," he said, his eyes briefly meeting mine in the rearview mirror before returning to the road. "Why?" I asked, curious about this unexpected statement. "You have a family who wants to see you." There was no bitterness in his voice, just a profound sadness that made my heart ache. I didn't respond immediately. Something told me to wait, to give him space to continue if he wanted to. And he did. "My wife and I," he began, his voice slightly unsteady. "We fight all the time. We don't speak. We don't smile. It's like we live in 2 different worlds." The words seemed to pour out of him, as if a dam had broken somewhere inside. "That sounds hard," I said softly, offering him the simple acknowledgement that his pain was real and understood. "It is," he confirmed. "I sleep on the couch. My daughter doesn't talk to me. She says I never listen." He paused, then added quietly, "Maybe she's right." Now I understood. He wasn't angry at me. He wasn't rude. He was simply broken, a man drowning in his own life, unable to reach the surface. I remained silent, giving him the space to continue his story, sensing that perhaps he hadn't spoken these truths aloud to anyone before. "I work every day," he continued. "I drive this car. I bring people to nice hotels. I smile at strangers." The irony wasn't lost on me. He certainly hadn't smiled at me. But in my own house, I feel like a ghost. That word, ghost, stayed in my mind. What a powerful way to describe his existence. Present physically, but invisible emotionally. Moving through life without making an impact, without being truly seen by those who should know him best. Last night, he said, his voice dropping even lower, I almost left. I packed a bag. I wanted to disappear. And why didn't you? I asked gently. His response nearly broke my heart. Because my daughter cried. I heard her behind the door. She didn't say anything, but I heard her cry. His voice changed as he spoke these words. It became slower, softer, vulnerable. The hardened exterior was cracking, revealing the wounded father beneath. In that moment, driving through a city of vacation and pleasure, this man was navigating the much more difficult terrain of his broken heart. A father's struggle. I don't know what to do, the driver continued, his confession gaining momentum like a river breaking through a weakened dam. I don't know how to be a father or a husband. His hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel as he spoke, revealing the depth of his distress. I wanted to say something wise, something that would instantly heal his pain, but I realized that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. So I simply listened, creating a space where his truth could exist without judgment. As we drove past the gleaming hotels and vibrant beaches of Cancun, I became increasingly aware that this man wasn't really driving to my hotel destination. He was driving through his pain, using each mile to process the emotions he had kept bottled inside for too long. My wife says I only care about money, he continued after a while. She says I don't talk to her anymore. Is she right? I asked, not to challenge him, but to encourage reflection. He sighed deeply. Maybe. I don't know. I work all the time. I bring food. I pay the bills. His voice grew quieter. But yes, I don't talk. I don't ask how she feels. I don't tell her how I feel either. After a pause, he added, sometimes I forget she's a person, not just a woman who cooks or cleans. She's tired too, but I didn't see that. His words resonated with me, calling forth memories of my own marriage, the miscommunications, the assumptions, the things left unsaid until it was too late. Sometimes we only see when it's too late, I said gently. He nodded, a simple gesture that acknowledged the weight of what we were discussing. And my daughter, he continued, she used to tell me everything. Now she stays in her room. She closes the door. She says, you never listen. And she's right. I didn't listen. I was always on the phone, always working, always tired. A heavy silence filled the car. The bustling tourist destination outside the windows seemed to exist in another dimension, separate from the intimate conversation unfolding inside this taxi. I broke the silence, feeling compelled to share my own story. I also made mistakes, I told him. I was married for 40 years. I thought I had time, but one day my husband got sick and then he was gone. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror, our eyes meeting briefly. I wanted to tell him so many things, but it was too late. I was always busy. I was always waiting for the right time, but the right time never came. That's how I feel, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Like maybe it's already too late. No, I said firmly. If your daughter cried when you wanted to leave, it's not too late. If your wife still argues with you, it means she still feels something. When people stop talking, that's when you should worry. He considered this for a moment. I thought she didn't love me anymore. Maybe she thinks the same, I suggested. Maybe she thinks you don't love her. He fell quiet, and I could almost see the thoughts racing behind his eyes as he processed this possibility. That perhaps his wife's anger wasn't indifference but pain, not hatred but hurt love waiting to be rekindled. The unread letter. The driver remained quiet for a while, navigating the busy streets of Cancun while seemingly navigating the even more complex pathways of his thoughts. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. My daughter wrote me a letter last year, he revealed, his voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. She left it on my bed. I never read it. I was stunned by this confession. Why? I asked, trying to understand how a father could leave a letter from his child unread for an entire year. Because I was afraid, he admitted, his honesty painfully raw. I didn't want to know what she really felt. I thought it was hate. My heart ached for both this man and his daughter, for the words left unread, for the connection left unmade. Maybe it was love, I suggested gently. Maybe she wrote it because she still cares. Do you think so? He asked, and for the first time since I entered his taxi, I heard a flicker of hope in his voice. You won't know until you open it, I said simply. Silence fell again as he absorbed my words. I could feel the weight of his indecision, the fear battling with longing. What if it's too late? He finally asked, voicing his deepest fear. My response was immediate and direct. What if it's not? Those 4 words hung in the air between us, challenging the assumptions that had guided his actions, or rather, his inaction, for so long. In that moment, I could sense something changing inside him, something small but real, like the first ray of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I hadn't planned to have this conversation when I boarded my flight to Cancun that morning. I hadn't expected to become a confidant to a stranger, to hold space for his pain and regret. I had come to Cancun for family, for connection with those I already knew and loved. But perhaps this encounter wasn't an accident. Perhaps this taxi ride was exactly where I needed to be. The car continued moving through the streets, but now the silence felt different, charged with possibility rather than resignation. The driver's breathing had changed. It was deeper, more deliberate, as if he was gathering courage for something important. I think about leaving every day, he confessed after a while. I dream about starting a new life. No wife, no daughter, no problems. And what do you feel in those dreams? I asked. He hesitated before answering. Peace, he said, but also sadness. That's not a real dream, I told him. A real dream brings hope, not pain. He didn't respond, but I could tell my words had reached him. Then something unexpected happened. He pulled the car to the side of the road and stopped, right there in the middle of our journey. He didn't explain why. He just brought the vehicle to a complete halt. Turning slightly in his seat to face me, he asked, "Can I tell you something? Something I never told anyone." "Yes," I said, understanding that we had reached a critical moment in our conversation. He took a deep breath, as if preparing to lift a heavy burden that he had carried alone for far too long. Whatever he was about to share, I knew it would change the course of our unexpected journey together. The truth revealed. "Last year, I made a big mistake," the driver began, his voice trembling slightly as he gripped the steering wheel. "I met another woman." He paused, swallowing hard before continuing. "I didn't love her. I didn't even like her. I just wanted to feel free." The confession hung in the air between us, heavy with shame and regret. The car remained stationary on the side of the road. Other vehicles passing by, their drivers unaware of the momentous conversation happening inside our taxi. "I never told my wife," he continued, "but I think she knows. I think that's why everything is broken." My heart stopped for a second as I absorbed his words. Infidelity, the breach of trust that can shatter even the strongest foundations of a relationship. Yet I felt no judgment toward this broken man, only compassion for the pain his choices had created for himself and his family. "And do you still talk to that woman?" I asked gently. "No," he said firmly. "It was only one time. But that one time changed everything." I nodded, understanding the terrible power of a single moment of weakness. "Sometimes one moment can destroy years," I acknowledged. Then I added, "But one moment can also fix what is broken." He shook his head, tears now visible in his eyes. but I don't deserve a second chance. I looked at him directly, challenging his self-condemnation. Then why are you still driving me? Why are you still talking? Why did you stop the car? He didn't answer immediately, considering my questions. Finally, he said, because your words feel like my mother's words. She died 3 years ago. His voice cracked slightly. And before she died, she told me, don't let pride destroy your home. I didn't listen. Then listen now, I said with quiet authority. Do you believe people like me can change? He asked, his question revealing both doubt and desperate hope. Yes, I answered without hesitation. But not tomorrow, not next week. Only today. Change begins today. He looked down at his hands, still resting on the steering wheel. Maybe God sent you to this car, he said softly. I didn't confirm or deny his statement. In truth, I didn't know why our paths had crossed on this particular day, in this particular place. But I knew that this was not a normal taxi ride. This was something bigger, a moment of truth, a crossroads where this man's future hung in the balance. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper, creased and slightly yellowed with age. This is the letter from my daughter, he said. The one I never opened. I looked at the letter, but remained silent. This was his moment, his choice. Should I read it? He asked, vulnerability evident in every word. Instead of answering directly, I asked, do you want to stay the same, or do you want to be the man she needs? He looked at the letter again, holding it as if it were both precious and dangerous. I'm afraid, he admitted. Be afraid, I told him, but open it anyway. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the paper. As he began to read, silence filled the car. Not the tense, heavy silence from before, but a profound quiet filled with possibility. I watched his face as his eyes moved across the page, witnessing the subtle changes in his expression: surprise, pain, wonder. Minutes passed. I waited patiently, not wanting to interrupt this sacred moment between a father and his daughter's words. Whatever the letter contained, I knew it was changing him as he read. The letter's message. It's not what I thought, the driver finally said, his voice thick with emotion. He held the letter in hands that trembled slightly, his eyes still fixed on the words his daughter had written a year ago. What is it? I asked gently, curious about what message had kept him silent for so long. It's love, he replied, seeming almost bewildered by the discovery. I waited for him to continue, sensing he needed time to process what he was reading. After a moment, he began to share the contents of the letter with me. She wrote this 1 year ago, he explained, then read aloud. Dad, I know you're not perfect, but I still love you. I miss you. I want my father back. The simplicity and power of those words hung in the air between us. Such a direct expression of love, untainted by the complications adults so often add to their emotions. I remained silent, allowing him the space to continue when he was ready. I know you're tired, he read on. I know you're lost. But please don't give up. I'm still here, and I still need you. His voice cracked on the last words, and he paused to collect himself. The vulnerability in his expression was heartbreaking, a mixture of relief, regret, and overwhelming emotion. This tough, silent man who had seemed so closed off when I first entered his taxi was now completely open, his defenses demolished by the honest words of his child. Don't walk away from us, he continued reading. Walk back to us. Those words seemed to carry special weight, echoing the very conversation we had been having. His daughter had sensed his desire to leave, to escape the complications of family life, long before he had packed that bag last night. She had seen through his silence to the struggle beneath. Then came something unexpected. There's more, he said, looking up at me with eyes wide with astonishment. He returned to the letter, reading the final lines. I hope one day someone will remind you who you are. Someone will help you find the way home again. I froze as the meaning of those words sank in. The coincidence, if it was indeed just coincidence, was almost too perfect to believe. His daughter had wished for someone to guide her father back to his true self, back to his family. And here I was, a stranger in his taxi, doing exactly that. "That person is you," he said, his voice filled with wonder as he looked at me through the rearview mirror. I couldn't speak for a moment, my chest feeling simultaneously heavy and light. The synchronicity of the moment was overwhelming. Sometimes life gives us people not for the whole journey. I finally said, just for one stop. But that one stop changes everything. He smiled, a real smile that transformed his face, softening the hard lines of worry and regret that had been etched there when I first met him. It was like watching ice melt, revealing the warmth that had been frozen beneath. But then his expression changed again, concern returning to his features. "There's something else," he said. "What?" I asked. "My wife. She doesn't know about the letter. She doesn't know how I feel now. She doesn't know I want to fix things." It was a valid concern. His new awareness, his desire to change. These were internal shifts that his wife couldn't possibly know about unless he took action to show her. "Then what will you do?" I asked. "I don't know yet," he admitted, uncertainty clouding his newfound clarity. I decided to ask him a question that would cut through his hesitation. "If today was your last chance, what would you do?" He didn't answer immediately, thoughtfully considering the scenario I had proposed. Then he said, "I would go home. I would hold them, and I would tell the truth." "Then maybe today is your last chance," I suggested, not to frighten him, but to emphasize the urgency of seizing this moment of clarity before it slipped away. He stared straight ahead, not restarting the car, just sitting there in deep contemplation. I waited, respecting his process, understanding that he was standing at a crossroads that would determine the future of his family. The decision. "I never planned to talk to anyone today," the driver said, breaking the thoughtful silence that had settled in the car. "I just wanted to finish my shift and go home." He shook his head slightly, as if still puzzled by the turn our encounter had taken. "But now I don't know what happened," he continued, gesturing vaguely with one hand. "Something real happened," I told him with certainty. "Yes," he agreed, nodding slowly. "But what do I do now?" I looked at him directly. "You already know the answer." He turned his gaze to the road, stretching ahead, then back to the letter still in his hands. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet but resolute. "I don't want to take you to your hotel. I want to go home." "Then why don't you?" I asked simply. His vulnerability showed in his response. "Because I'm scared. What if they don't want me anymore?" I understood his fear, the fear of rejection, of finding that the damage was indeed beyond repair. But I also knew the greater danger of inaction. "You won't know until you try," I said gently. "But if you wait too long, they may not be there." "You're right," he acknowledged, the weight of decision visible in his expression. Slowly, he started the car again. This time, he didn't drive with the mechanical efficiency of someone just doing a job. He drove like someone making a choice with each meter of the road, someone choosing a new direction not just for his vehicle, but for his life. After a few minutes of driving in contemplative silence, he spoke again. "I'll take you to your hotel first." "No," I replied, surprising myself with the firmness of my response. "Take me to the nearest bus stop. My family can pick me up. You need to go home." "But you paid for the ride," he protested, his sense of duty competing with his newfound urgency. "The ride is done," I told him. "The real journey is yours now." He nodded and turned at the next intersection, driving for a few more minutes until we reached a small bus station. He pulled over smoothly and turned to face me. "This is good," I said, gathering my small travel bag. "I don't know how to say thank you," he said, his eyes reflecting genuine gratitude. "Then don't say anything," I advised him. "Just live the change." A smile spread across his face. A quiet smile, but a true one, perhaps the first genuine smile he had allowed himself in a very long time. Then he said something I will never forget. "You changed my life in 20 minutes. I hope one day I can do the same for someone else." "You will," I assured him, believing it with my whole heart. He looked at me one last time, our eyes meeting in a moment of perfect understanding. Then he turned the car around and drove away, heading not toward his next fare, but toward his home, his family, his chance to begin again. I stood there at the bus stop, watching his taxi disappear into the flow of traffic, thinking about what had just happened. I had come to Cancun to see my family. I had imagined this trip would be about hugs, food, and laughter, and it would still include all those things. But perhaps this journey was about something else too. Perhaps it was about one ride, one broken man, one chance to speak, and one truth. A moment that matters. I remained at the bus stop, my suitcase beside me, watching the flurry of tourists and locals pass by. The warm Cancun breeze gently touched my face as I contemplated the extraordinary encounter I had just experienced. Sometimes, I now believe more than ever, we don't choose the moment chooses us. I came here to see my family. I wanted a rest. I wanted joy. But life gave me something more. One short ride, one conversation, one man with a heavy heart. I didn't plan to speak. I didn't plan to listen. But sometimes the moment calls you, and you must answer. We think we are too old to help, too small to matter. But maybe one word can change a day. One question can open a door. One act of kindness can save a life. That man was not just a driver. He was a mirror. He showed me my past, my mistakes, my silence. And I showed him his future, a better one. Soon, I would call my son to pick me up from this bus stop. Soon, I would be embraced by my daughters, surrounded by my grandchildren's laughter. Soon, I would sit at a table filled with food and stories and love. But for now, I stood alone, filled with a quiet certainty that the most important part of my journey to Cancun had already happened. That taxi driver, I never even learned his name, was driving home now. He was driving toward a difficult conversation, toward uncomfortable truths, toward the possibility of redemption. I wondered what words he would choose when he arrived. I wondered if his wife would listen, if his daughter would forgive. I hoped they would, but that part of the story was no longer mine to witness. My part was done. I had been present when presence was needed. I had spoken when words were required. I had listened when silence was the greater gift. In doing so, I had reminded myself of something essential. We are never too old to make a difference. Our words carry power until our final breath. Our attention is a gift we can always give. As I waited for my family to arrive, I found myself asking questions I hadn't considered in years. Who needs my voice today? Who needs my time? Who needs my forgiveness? These questions felt urgent now, necessary. Life had reminded me, through this chance encounter with a troubled taxi driver, that we must not wait for the perfect moment. It may never come. The right moment is now. Speak now. Love now. Listen now. Because sometimes one moment is all we have. When my son's car finally pulled up to the bus stop, and I saw his surprised face questioning why I wasn't at the hotel, I simply smiled. "I have a story to tell you," I said as he helped me with my luggage. A story about a taxi ride that wasn't really about getting to a destination. As we drove toward the hotel where the rest of my family waited, I began to share what had happened. Because stories like these aren't meant to be kept to ourselves. They are meant to be passed along, like a torch illuminating the way forward, reminding us all that connections matter, that listening matters, that being fully present in each moment matters. And perhaps somewhere across the city, a man was walking through his front door, letter in hand, ready to begin the difficult but necessary work of rebuilding what he had nearly lost. Perhaps he too was discovering that it's never too late to change direction, never too late to speak the truth, never too late to come home. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey through Elena's unexpected encounter. I hope this story has touched your heart as much as it has mine, reminding us all of the profound impact we can have on others' lives, often without realizing it. If you found value in this story, please take a moment to hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember, one small act of kindness, one moment of genuine listening, can change someone's entire path. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a chance encounter that changed your perspective? Or perhaps you've been the catalyst for change in someone else's life. Your stories inspire this community and remind us of our shared human experience. Don't forget to subscribe to LMJ English for more stories that not only help improve your English skills, but also deliver meaningful messages that resonate with life's deepest truths. Turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly uploads. Until next time, remember Elena's powerful realization. Don't wait for the perfect moment to speak, to listen, to love. The right moment is now. This is LMJ English, where we learn language through the stories that matter. Vocabulary list. Reunion. Noun, a social gathering of people who have been separated for some time. The family reunion in Cancun brought together 3 generations. Encounter. Noun, an unexpected or significant meeting with someone. Her encounter with the taxi driver changed both their lives. Vulnerability. Noun, the quality of being exposed to emotional harm. Openness. He showed his vulnerability when he shared his deepest fears. Redemption. Noun, the action of saving or being saved from sin, error, or evil. The driver sought redemption for his past mistakes. Catalyst. Noun, a person or thing that precipitates an event or change. Elena became the catalyst for the driver's decision to return home. Reconciliation. Noun, the restoration of friendly relations. His greatest hope was reconciliation with his wife and daughter. Perspective. Noun, a particular attitude toward viewing things. The conversation gave him a new perspective on his family situation. Revelation. Noun, a surprising and previously unknown fact that has been disclosed. The content of a letter was a revelation to the driver. Estranged. Adjective, no longer close or affectionate to someone. Alienated. He had become estranged from his daughter over time. Regret. Noun, a feeling of sadness about something sad or wrong or about a mistake made. His voice was filled with regret when he spoke of his marriage. Profound. Adjective, very great or intense, having deep meaning. Their conversation had a profound impact on both their lives. Hesitation. Noun, the action of pausing before saying or doing something. He opened the letter after a moment of hesitation. Crossroads. Noun, a point at which a crucial decision must be made that will have far-reaching consequences. The driver stood at a crossroads in his life. Synchronicity. Noun, the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. The synchronicity of meeting Elena just when he needed guidance was remarkable. Facade. Noun, a deceptive outward appearance. His cold demeanor was just a facade hiding his inner pain. Indifference. Noun, lack of interest, concern, or sympathy. What he had mistaken for indifference was actually hurt. Resonated. Verb, to evoke or suggest images, memories, and emotions. Her words resonated deeply with his own experiences. Turmoil. Noun, a state of great disturbance, confusion, or uncertainty. His eyes revealed the inner turmoil he was experiencing. Ephemeral. Adjective, lasting for a very short time. Their meeting was ephemeral, but its impact would last forever. Pivotal. adjective of crucial importance in relation to the development or success of something else. This was a pivotal moment in the driver's life.